All right. So trying to do some synthesizing, some of that jazz. Okay. Looking at John Peterson's work, he's a futurist, and I'm typically in general agreement with what he has to say. He's really quite a broad-minded thinker, includes a lot of trends. He has sort of somewhat of a Wolverian perspective at sort of stages of development. That is, kind of developed through waves or broad stages of consciousness, alongside a multiplistic way of dealing with reality. Yes, I'm very clear. Biopsychosocial, cultural quandaries have to be solved simultaneously, in other words. I tend not to agree with him on his views of politics, but in general, he's saying about 2012 he really does think is sort of a tipping point economically. He's saying that indeed the present economic model is in its dire straits presently, with I think he quoted 191 trillion of derivatives sort of held within the World Bank and so forth. I believe it was the World Bank. The numbers that I have are more American specific, where it's like between 23 trillion and 27 trillion held in debt. But when you have, for example, America that's yearly GDP is only 12 trillion, there's a place of speculation where the global community says, okay, we can't get ourselves out of this. And he thinks it's already passed in lots of ways, but with 191 trillion or thereabouts of derivatives approximately. So there's that trend. There's also sort of the psychological trend of we're nearing the place where 10% of the population starts to enter into sort of integrated stage of awareness within the Western cultures anyway. And there has seemed to be a sort of a tipping point when about 10% of the culture gets to a particular wave of consciousness. With the Industrial Revolution, you see about 10% move into the rational stage, and then we have, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. With the postmodern revolution, it's including sort of relativism and so forth. Again, arguably about 10%. Some of these trends have been manipulated, as they always are, with big government, with any sort of governing system. Rockefellers are on record saying that the feminist revolution was in part crafted by him, by the group of people that are sort of in control to some extent, and directed to where they wanted it to go. That was said to Aaron Russo on Freedom to Fascism, Reflections and Warnings. He said that was told to him personally. That is not to say that feminism isn't a great thing, and obviously I believe that, at least equality is obviously a wonderful thing. But steered in a certain direction, there's, given what he said, good reason to think that has a big role in why perhaps we see disintegration into the family unit to some extent. Anyway, getting back to John Peterson and his megatrends. So we have this economic, situation. We have this psychological transformation. There's a technological trend. It's far more obvious than even those two, in my opinion. And that's the movement to really kind of wild technologies, like nearing the edge of intelligent machines and this sort of thing. All these are playing a role in, creating a major transformation. Whether it's going to be a positive move or a negative move, that's either out of our control, or we do play a major role. And I take the position that we have to play a role in that. Seems, and so that the role that we're playing is, hopefully towards greater integration in all those domains. So where Peterson, I think is missing is not just putting enough emphasis on, uprooting the corruption so that we can have a more healthy transition, perhaps, into a better model. Some of the things that I'd love to hear back from you on regard things like trialectics. I'll just briefly outline that model. It's based on I've spoken about it before. It's the idea that we have three brains, the reptilian brainstem, the mammalian, and then the rational. And in a sense, I believe this kind of mimics three forms of government: sort of authoritarian, socialist, and sort of democratic. So authoritarian is sort of the reptilian brain, sort of directed governance, so that you're allowed to do certain things and you're not allowed to do others. So the impulsivity has to be curbed. The socialist system is to maximize the good. The mammalian compassionate brain wants to connect, wants to join. And then the democratic mind, which is the rational mind in my opinion, is one of reasoning. It's about novelty. It's about innovation. Now, this is more controversial. Our current economic model, and I think this is spun into why we're having major problems presently, is that the economic model is based primarily and pretty much strictly within the authoritarian government model. That is to say, it's competition driven only. We don't have another higher order economic model to help curb this. Now, this is part of the problem that was created with the institution of the democratic system. That is, at the implementation time, they didn't make multiple forms of governance that paralleled, or multiple forms of economics that paralleled the multiple levels of governance. This, I believe, would have helped us maybe, more easily transition into a more integrative culture. So what I mean by that is that you have sort of the traditional, maybe Austrian economic model, which is just the one that I'm most in favor of, but it's really just it's essentially survival of the fittest of companies. That is, those companies that produce the best are the ones that succeed. The higher order economic model would be one of good works, sort of, so that individuals, maybe even corporations, it's harder to navigate, but I'm still unsure if the economic model ought not be individually directed. This is something I'm still, but just to get the point clear is that you need a model of economy at the higher level that is heart-based. It's about compassion, so that there's actually a monetary value for the kind of good works that are produced. It rides under, or no, above the sort of typical monetary structure. Okay? And then the higher order one, even than that, would be a innovative sort of model. I'm zapping out here. One sec, sorry. It's kind of slowly dying away here. Maybe I better stop it. Yeah, stop it and then I'll start another one.